Our topic today is the inside scoop about our 2026 annual conference. And so I am so delighted to have with us today the conference host for the conference, the church musician, vocal coach and performer and teacher, Andy Blosser. I'm Amanda Udis Kessler. I serve on the UCCMA Board of Directors as Director of DEI and Member Education. And so, what we're going to do today is I'm going to ask Andy some questions about the conference. And since we have, tell us a little bit about the conference venue and about your congregation more broadly.
First Community Church is a forward-thinking church that historically has been dubbed back in the 50s. I believe they were dubbed the Church of the Infinite Quest, and they have been on the forefront of social issues since the 1920s in terms of ordaining women and same-sex unions when it was illegal in the state of Ohio, things like that. We have actually been picketed by Westboro Baptists on numerous occasions, and we consider that a very high accomplishment. Um, the church is it's a wonderful place. We have two locations. We have our original location, which is at 1320 Cambridge Boulevard in the Marble Cliff area of Columbus, and about, I would say, 40 years ago, the church decided they wanted to have a presence out a little further in the community, and so they purchased property where the conference will be housed out on Dublin Road, where we have our second location. And in 2019, we completed a construction project for a new sanctuary and office spaces, music rehearsal space, library, things like that. So the church is very mission oriented. One of the things I love about the church is that it is a church with resources and an affluent neighborhood and clientele. But they're also very, very willing to jump in and get their hands dirty and jump on any missions that come up. So whenever there is something that arises as a need that someone brings to the mission group, we have groups of people that form and jump on that. So just a highlight of some things we have. An orphanage that we sponsor in Pune, India. We have an AIDS orphanage in Rafiki Project that actually has the first community dormitory. So things like that. It's not just here in our community, but international. They do things with the Back Bay Mission in Biloxi, Mississippi. And just last week, our youth program with 70 kids was in Mexico building houses for folks down there. So it's a wonderful church with a really wonderful people who are wanting to be the hands and feet of Christ in the community.
That's marvelous. And for people who come to the conference, in terms of what the venue is like, what the space is like, the pictures have been absolutely beautiful. Tell us a little bit about what people who register can expect in terms of engaging with the space.
Yeah. So we're fortunate that our north location is both of our locations are very sizable, but we're very fortunate at the north location to have plenty of conference rooms and venues and worship opportunity spaces. You actually will be there during the summer. We have a huge tent that is in our parking lot for outdoor worship. So even that sort of thing will be present for this conference. I don't know, depending on the weather, if we're going to partake of being out in the parking lot. But the majority of everything will be housed in our north location. Meals will be in Grace Hall. We have a really wonderful, beautiful exterior courtyard space. It's connected to our narthex, where some things will happen. Receptions will happen after concerts. The sanctuary, which seats 850 people with our Kleist organ. The organ was dedicated in 2020. We had some delays with the pandemic, but it is the largest installation of a Kleist organ, which is a Bonn, Germany company in North America. So we will hear a concert in that space from Colin Richardson on the organ. It'll be used in some of our worship experiences throughout the conference and service like the auditorium, but also intercessions and things will take place in there as well. Handbells will be in our rehearsal space, which is a really wonderful acoustic in our rehearsal space as well. So they'll be housed in there pretty much for the week or for the conference, and then we have other, various other spaces that we'll be in. So people will be able to engage in partake in lots of different places at the church. We will have for some what are we calling it? Activities, like optional activities. There will be some time out in the Memorial Garden, which has a labyrinth to do some guided labyrinth walks and things like that. But we are also going to do some touring of some of our mission work that is happening at South. So folks who want to will be able to engage in our South location to see our heart-to-heart food pantry. We have a trading post, which is a secondhand store. And then we have various other missions. We have a quilting ministry that makes prayer quilts for folks where they leave strings for people to tie and say a prayer. That people who are in hospital or whatever receive those with a list of people who prayed over them. And mat makers, we have a group of folks who make mats for unhoused. So we have a lot of stuff that we're really proud of some of the ministry and work we're doing at First Community. So we're hoping to be able to show some of those things.
That's amazing. It sounds like even just beyond the rich musical situations, there's going to be a lot of other opportunities for thought and growth. So that's marvelous. But of course, lots of people will be paying attention to the headliners. So tell us who some of the special guests are, presenters, performers. What can people expect from them?
Sure. So Columbus is we're fortunate here. We're rich with resources of really renowned and accomplished people in the music world. And so I'm super excited about Dr. Hilary Appelstadt. She was on my doctoral committee at Ohio State, but she was my teacher, my choral teacher for my master's and my doctorate. Also happened to be my wife's teacher for undergrad and master's work. She is she's a pastor's kid, so I think that gives her a special little flavor there. But she's just a model human being. She's a wonderful human being. She's kind. She's passionate about her craft. She practices what she preaches when it comes to being a technician and a clinician. And I know that everyone's going to really love getting to work with her in the choir. So she'll be leading the choir. She's also doing a workshop. She is Canadian. She was at UNCG for several years before coming to OSU, and then OSU for about 20 years, I think, and then retired from the University of Toronto, which was her alma mater. So being a Canadian, she also is very interested in Canadian church music. So she's going to be doing a session on Canadian church music and resources that are available for the vast body of work that exists in that area. So that is the choral person. Jared Oj is a colleague of mine at OSU. He works in the music and dance library. He's a librarian at Ohio State. But he has, for his age, he's become this rock star in the handbell world, which is kind of funny to say, but it exists. And so Jared is also just a really kind, passionate human being who I'm excited for folks to get a chance to work with him. On one of the board calls earlier this year, when I mentioned his name, somebody on the call was like, "Oh, because they had just seen him at like a handbell conference." So Jared is also doing two sessions. He's doing a sight reading session, or sight ringing session, and then doing another session entitled Ready, Set, Ring, or 1, 2, 3, Ring, or something like that. That is in the intro sessions that week. So those are the two headliners for the clinician work for the ensembles. Then we have from the clergy, we have, and I am so sorry because I just lost her name. It's because I have a pastor by a similar name and I always confuse the two. It's Cheryl Lindsay, right?
Right.
Cheryl Lindsay from the UCC is coming to be our keynote speaker for the opening night, which will be followed by an organ recital by Colin Richardson, who is, again, one of the nicest people. I think you'll find a trend that some of the people that are engaged in this are some of the nicest people that you will meet. He's young. He teaches in one of our Columbus public schools. but has his doctorate from University of Cincinnati and serves on the faculty at OSU with me as our organ professor. And he is super excited he loves coming and playing the organ there. Every time someone comes and plays on this organ, they're just in awe of the instrument. I wish I was an organist because it's such an incredible instrument. I took 2 semesters of organ, so you won't hear me play. But you'll hear a fabulous program from him that night. Then clergy-wise, you will get to meet our senior minister, Reverend Glenn Miles. He will be leading worship on Thursday morning. On Friday morning, Reverend John Gerard, who is our minister of mission and social justice, will be leading worship that morning. And then on Saturday, Reverend Mary Kate Buchanan, she is our minister of pastoral care, will be leading worship with the Common Grace Band. So that'll be a contemporary service on Saturday morning. So you'll get to meet some of our clergy. Other clinicians who are coming in, let me go back to just talk about the concert since I mentioned Colin. On Thursday night, we will do First Community Choirs will present a concert. So we have at First Community, because of the 2 locations, we have a Cambridge choir, which sings at our South location. And that is a choir of about 40 singers. And then at our North location, the choir that I conduct is the Chancel Choir. They'll be presenting some music in a concert. And then we have a professional group that is made up of both of those choirs, singers from both those choirs, called the Marble Cliff Singers. And that choir actually just finished performing at Midwest ACDA in Milwaukee just a couple weeks ago. They were the only church choir selected out of 10 states and one of 2 choirs representing Ohio. And so we were really, really honored by that. It was a really fabulous concert. I'm so proud of them. And I say to people on a regular basis that I sometimes am not baffled, I'm awestruck sometimes by the talent and the quality of people that I have to work with at First Community, and that I have the privilege of leading that program. It's a really fabulous collection of people. So we're excited to share what we do with the conference. So that'll happen on Thursday night. On Friday night, we will have a concert with Raymond Wise, Reverend Dr. Raymond Wise, and the Rays Singers. This is Dr. Wise I met many years ago when I was in the public schools teaching. I had to do a recertification, continuing ed credits for my recertification. And my wife and I just decided to go and take gospel choir at OSU as one of those credits. And he was the conductor of that at OSU at the time. He is now on faculty at Indiana University Jacobs School of Music, and is on the faculty there for African American Studies and Spiritual Studies. So he directs gospel choir there. But in his family, his entire family are singers and musicians and ministers, and so they have his family collection of singers with other folks that they bring in, and you will hear a really spectacular concert with them on Friday night. So I'm really excited to share them with you as well. Some of the clinicians or the presenters for the intra-sessions, you mentioned that I teach at OSU. I am the associate professor or assistant professor. I just got promoted to associate, but it's not technically legal yet, or official yet, so I can't say that. But I am the area head for the voice department at Ohio State. And so one of the sessions that I'm going to present is on the aging voice and how to work with aging singers. My wife is going to do a session on recruiting. When Amy started, when we were hired, I was hired as an interim. We were going through some transitions at the church, and the choir was bouncing back and forth between locations. And we decided that we needed to have a choir dedicated for both locations. That choir of 40 singers was born in a year. So Amy's going to do a session on recruiting, because my wife, I'm not saying it because she's my wife, but she is the Pied Piper. And I always joke with her that I have the chancel choir is the older, it's been in existence longer at the church. They're going to surpass me in numbers very, very soon because they continue to recruit, and she will have some tips on recruiting and things like that. There are 2 sessions that are geared toward composer type folks. Dr. Tim Sarsney is going to be doing a session on composing, looking into things like adapting music for you have a very strange instrumentation or makeup of your choir, two sopranos and one bass. He's going to give you some tips on how to adapt some music, write descants, maybe even talk about composing on the whole. I went to grad school with Tim. Tim is the former director of the Columbus Gay Men's Chorus, and he is an active composer. Just this past year, one of the pieces that we premiered it back in June of last year, but we took it to Milwaukee to premiere in its form. It was uh, commissioned for full orchestra. And then when we went to conference, we commissioned another instrumentation of it. So that was premiered in Milwaukee just a few weeks ago. It is entitled Jesus at the Gay Bar. And it's a shocking title. If you are not familiar with that text, it is a beautiful text. It is by Joshua Hume, who is an Anglican priest in the UK. And he has written many essays and has written a lot of poetry. In the shockingness of the title is what I love because it grabs your attention. But the entire thing is about that. It mentions that Jesus is there in this club dancing. His hands are he's probably perspiring because he's dancing really hard. And at some point in the evening, a boy touches the hem of his robe and says, "Please heal me. Please make me anything other than what I am." And he says, "There's nothing that needs to be healed in you." That is the gist of this text. It is a beautiful text, and Tim said it so beautifully. You'll hear that when we will do that on the concert Thursday night. But so Tim is going to do a session on some composition things, and then we also have Innocent, who the UCC sponsored last year. Yeah, he is going to do a session on language, on words, and how to consider text in composition. So for those who are interested in that, his is going to be more of just a casual conversation. But those are two things for folks who might be interested in composition type stuff. Janelle Rogers is our contemporary music coordinator at First Community. She will be leading the band on Saturday morning worship. She is also doing a session. We're being First Community, and many of you probably do the same thing, that contemporary worship in some of the content that exists is not always compatible with some of our theology in some of our progressive theology churches. And so Janelle does a really beautiful job. And Amanda and I have had this conversation about how we have to adopt texts for old hymns and things all the time to make them relevant and to make them inclusive. But Janelle does a really good job of that with her band and with the music that they select for contemporary worship. So she's going to lead a session on that sort of thing, and probably talk about recruiting musicians for a band. We're trying to make sure that we're not just going after, I recognize, because I've been in churches who are not First Community and not with the resources First Community has. And so we want to make sure we're reaching people too that are at smaller churches there are many people who wear every hat on the staff, even if you are staff. But we want to make sure that we're giving some tips and ideas in that regard for people there. So she's going to do some contemporary stuff. And what else am I missing? Amanda is doing a session on old texts, or I'm sorry, old tunes, new texts, which will be it's something that I deal with on a daily basis at church. So that'd be a great resource for folks to just have some ideas on how to make things more contemporary and inclusive. I know I'm missing one is still being solidified. So it's tips for keyboardists. I have a person that I've asked and he is not committed yet, but so that will be one thing that the schedule will be coming out probably today. I'm going to send it into the board so that everything is done. There will be a placeholder for that, but I'll announce at some point in time on the website who that person is once he confirms that he wants to do that for me. We will have an open console for 2 hours where if anyone wants to play the Kleist organ and mess around on that instrument, we want to give people an opportunity to experience that, because you will notice when you walk into First Community that there are so many things that are so important to the church, but the arts is incredibly important to the church. And that is going to be evident the minute you walk into the space and you see the instruments that are there, from the organ to the grand piano that sits on our stage is or on the chancel is a it's called the Tennessee D. It's a 9 foot Steinway that was the Chattanooga Symphony's piano for many, many years. And somehow we acquired it. It was bought in honor of my former organist who passed away a couple years ago. But inside is inscribed, or in calligraphy is written, all of these famous artists who performed on it. And one of the things we did when Sally passed, we had her name added to the harp. So that it is fascinating to just see these people. You'll be very shocked at some of the names. You'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe. And it's a fabulous instrument, and the investment in the space and to the instruments as well just shows how much this church really loves the arts within worship. I rambled there a little bit about all those things, so hopefully I answered that question.
No, that's great. Now, I've been to plenty of conferences like this where people got frustrated because there were so many great workshop options and only one or two workshop slots. What is the current thinking about people being able to um, attend a variety of workshops because maybe some things are offered more than once? Is that
In the original plan, that was the original plan to offer things multiple times, but that may not be conducive. In the
mm,
current schedule, there will have to be some choices that are made on attending some things. So unfortunately, I don't, that's not the easiest thing to do. We try, like I put my session across from something that I thought would be more popular. So things like that. So we try to be strategic about where we're putting things and the hour that we're putting things for the schedule. But the resources, though, all handouts and things will be available, and we'll make sure that the clinician's contact is there, clear for people to reach out to those presenters. Um, I would love to say that they will be archived and recorded, and we can send things out that way. I'm working on that, but we had a changeover in our media ministry team, and our new guy is he's very by the books and trying to keep things very ordered. And as you can imagine, many of you probably went through this during COVID. We all scrambled just to figure out how to exist and do whatever we do. And our media team saved our lives because they took up the brunt of that. And unfortunately, we never really came out of that. We still operate with that mentality with our media team, but we didn't increase their budget. So, so they're very strapped, and he's trying to sort of rein things in. So that is still in the works. So stay tuned for that.
and I think it's just helpful for people to know that there may not be a lot of kind of options around which workshop session they go to and getting to many of them. So, if there isn't going to be a lot of overlap, it's just better to know that ahead of time so
Yep,
people can, make their plans strategically. So
exactly.
so we have these fabulous headliners, we have this incredible facility, we have these great workshops. Is there any other reason you can think of that people should be coming to this conference?
Every time I go to a conference, there's always the expense of getting there and the registration for the conference, the housing, and all of that stuff, and that can be cumbersome. But every time I go to a conference, I come back refreshed and renewed, and that's for multiple things. It's from the information that you're receiving from for to the concerts and the things that you're partaking in. But also, I think it's important to remember that we are creatures that need to fellowship, and when we are gathering together and reconnecting with folks we've known forever, or meeting people for the first time, that's really important for us in our craft. I've found that the music world is very, very small. Even though we're this huge country, it is a very, very small place. And I've been shocked so many times when I've gone somewhere and, it's been like strange coincidences. I grew up in a town of 650 people, and there's a smaller town near there called Roundhead. And I was in Texas at a conference, and I heard them as I was walking by say Roundhead. And I stopped them. I was like, I was not trying to eavesdrop, but are you from Roundhead? And they're like, no, I'm from Bell Center. That's my hometown. 650 people, so things are very, very interconnected and very, very small. So I think we always need to remember that that is needs to be a huge factor in what we do, just the fellowship and the connections that we make. I'm also biased. Columbus is a really wonderful community, and if folks have not been to Columbus before, this will be a great opportunity for you to come and see what we're all about here in the Buckeye State.
Well, that's magnificent. So the last prepared question, we're back to Andy now, is how do people get more information about the conference and sign up?
So people can visit the UCCMA website. It's the UCC Musicians Association website. If you just do UCCMA, you're going to go to another organization. Just know that. So it's Wild Apricot has to be in that title. Right. So www.uccma.wildapricot.org. The other one is a ministerial association, just for your information. And that website, those events with the full schedule and the clinicians, all of their bios and things will be updated very, very soon. I'm going to send that in today. And there may be some additions along the way, so you may want to check in from time to time just to see if there are any changes or new things that are added to the mix.
Actually, I forgot one question. What is the deadline for early bird sign up?
I was just going to say that early bird ends May 15th. So we do have obviously early bird, which is available for both denominations are being represented here. And then we also have non-members for outside. So I'm actually kind of hoping to garner a bunch of interest from local folks here to come and be a part as well.
That's magnificent. Well, thank you, Andy and Brad, so much for the work you do, both in general and on this conference. Does anyone else at the gathering have any questions, particularly for Andy at this point? Ed, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm wondering what other things you might recommend people to do while they're in the Columbus area, if we wanted to spend another couple of days there.
Oh, absolutely. I don't look at Columbus as being as big of a city as it is, but we are the 14th largest city in the nation. So there is population here and stuff. My wife and I live, if you look out my windows, you would see Nationwide Plaza. We live downtown a block away. In just a little bit is going to be the No Kings March happening just a block away from my house. So it is a bustling place. Columbus is known for being a food city. So we are a test market for restaurants. And so when concepts arise, they bring it to Columbus and see if we approve of the food. So I highly recommend restaurants here in Columbus. We have a lovely part of the town that is called the Short North, which is galleries and just different types of things like that with bars and restaurants that line the street for about 2 miles. So that's a really interesting part of the town. I recommend going to I just lost the name in my head. Give me 1 second. It is the conservatory. The Franklin Park Conservatory is a wonderful park to walk around and place for gardens and plants and butterfly gardens and things like that inside. It's also a really beautiful structure. If you know the conservatory in Chicago, it's modeled after that. So just this beautiful Victorian glass structure. Back when I was a kid, there was a national conference here called AmeriFlora, and it was for all of the florists. And it was housed at that park. So a lot of the gardens and venues that were part of that national thing or international conference are still part of that park. And then the downtown area, we have Scioto Mile, which is along the Scioto River. It has been developed into green space and it's beautiful. It really is beautiful. My wife and I take walks over there with our dog regularly. So it's just a nice place there. If you are a Big Ten person, obviously the Ohio State University is right here in Columbus. And it's a beautiful campus. So if you are so inclined to go and see the Horseshoe Stadium, you can drive right by that. But there's plenty to do. I don't know about the schedule for the arts, because we do have pop series with the Columbus Symphony Orchestra and Pro Musica, and Opera Columbus and Opera Project Columbus have productions in the summer. There's Shakespeare in the Park down in German Village in Schiller Park. So all kinds of stuff that you could get into if you dig around a little bit. Where the hotels are for the conference and where the church is not downtown. It's about a 10 to 15-minute drive from the church to get to downtown. We are in a neighborhood that is Upper Arlington, Hilliard. So we're kind of we're not in a neighborhood, if you will. We kind of sit in between housing developments in green space, but it is not hard to get around in Columbus.
Wonderful. Any other questions? Ruth, go ahead.
Yeah, could you talk a little bit about hotels? I know there are a lot of different alternatives.
There are several alternatives. They're all within, I would say, 2 miles of the church, all within 2 miles of the church. And there are different rates. I believe all of that stuff is on the website already. And it does give information for codes for the discount for the group rate. And there are, I believe on the website too, there are cutoffs or deadlines for some of those. So people will want to watch that to get the rates on those rooms. But they're all very, very close to the church.
Is this walkable between the church and the hotels?
That see, there's I had an organist come from Prague to do a recital, and he did some research. He set up his own thing, and he was like, "Oh, I can walk. It says it's only 2 miles." There aren't sidewalks, so you're walking on the berm. So I would not advise that. Most of those, I don't know if there are shuttles from some of the places over there, but I would I would very much advise people to kind of communicate with friends and car share. There are Uber opportunities and things like that too that are very accessible. But it is not. I would not walk.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Thanks. And I'm gonna put in one shameless plug for my workshop at the gathering this summer. I'm just starting right now a little essay for the UCCMA journal on how the whole new texts to traditional tunes approach can be really revitalizing for small town and rural churches. This is a new focus for the UCCMA. We're trying to make sure that we're paying good attention to our star churches, our small town and rural churches. And so I'm thinking that my workshop at the conference will build on that article. And so while it will be for anyone and everyone, I really hope people who are able to attend the conference from small town and rural churches will find that a useful resource, because that is a subset of churches in both of our traditions that right now really needs resources that do not cost money and that are readily accessible. And so that feels like an important ministry right now. So thanks for humoring me and letting me mention that. So, Andy, thanks so much for all the incredibly hard work you are doing, and thanks for being willing to take the time this morning to share your information with us. And Brad, thanks for giving us a little of the backstory. We appreciate it and hope to see many of you in Columbus this summer.